welcome to the underwater version of the Katunkwit Chronicles. And we're here in our studios today with some folks that are outstanding. Ashlyn's always outstanding, and I'm here with Colleen Bridget. Colleen Bridget, wonderful woman that I just recently met, so I don't know much about Colleen. She's going to help us out with some of that today, aren't you?
It's very nice to meet you. Yes.
Well, yeah, it's good to be met. I am enjoying this podcast already. We've had a lot of banter that started us off.
Some pre-podcast banter.
Yeah, there's lots of discussion that's been exciting. And we are joined today by Bridget.
Colleen
Bridget.
Colleen Bridget. You know, I'm going to have problems with that because
That's okay,
it's like James Allen. Alan James is
Right.
the double first name.
Yeah, it's confusing. It's okay.
So
I'll answer to either.
Colleen Bridget. Okay, good. And if I say Bridget, it's just like, boy, he's being rude.
He's calling me by my last name.
Yes.
It's okay.
That's where
They
it's
do
at,
that for
though.
football players, so we're good.
True. So you're a native of not here. I'm taking it because I
Correct.
hear some accent.
Correct. I grew up outside of Philadelphia.
Okay. Your family might have been from the Irish area, the Ireland or Scotland or somewhere up there.
No idea.
No idea.
No clue.
What do you call a deer with no eyes?
A you.
No idea.
Oh.
Okay,
No
so
idea.
let me have that down. So as we move on here, so not knowing your heritage, is that a
Oh, actually, I
purposeful
lied.
thing?
I do know my heritage. I did the DNA testing, and I am all Ireland, all
Yeah.
Completely,
completely.
100%.
There was like 2% of German, and then everybody has a little bit of Neanderthal kind of thing. But other than that, it was all Ireland, which is kind of weird because my mother's family supposedly was German, but they were
They were
Mm-hmm.
Irish
yeah,
German.
They were Irish German or English German. It was all like
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
My Neanderthal comes out during these podcasts.
Uh-oh.
Beware. So you emigrated from the great state of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's Pennsylvania. Hey, what happened to the vote over there? Not so good.
No.
I know. I guess I should have been knocking on doors or something. I'm not sure what happened there. So I'm looking at, like, when you look at Pennsylvania, I just thought they were going to come through for us. But there we are. So as we look at what brought you to this island of Katunkwit?
So I've lived here since '85. I moved here as a young woman and drove over the bridge and fell in love. Didn't ever want to go back to where I grew up.
Yeah, that blood pressure drops when you just get over the rise there, doesn't
And
it?
the old bridge was kind of creepy and
So
creaky. and
you knew you couldn't leave again.
And I didn't mind it. It never bothered me for 1 minute. So, and people would say, "Oh, you go over that bridge?" It's like, yeah, all the time. So my boyfriend at the time, my husband now, is the reason why I came up. And it was the great '80s, and he worked for an advertising agency, and it was yay, lots of parties and lots of expense accounts, and that all died.
Okay. It was an exciting time.
It was
It
exciting.
was good for a while.
It was fun.
You know,
It was fun for a while.
You brought the fun to Katunkwit, right? Yeah,
The F-U-N.
F-U-N. You nearly said it.
I nearly said it.
Was there some of that going on too? Anyway, I'm sure there was, but that's good. And as we move on here, how did you sustain yourself during this time? Did you just latch on to this advertising executive and
So
took a
I
ride?
did a bunch of all kinds of jobs when I first moved here. I worked in a bakery for a while.
Which one?
It's one in Newport that closed down. I don't even remember the name of it. I worked there for like a year.
Okay.
I worked where West Ferry used to be. I worked there when they first opened for a season, making sandwiches. And I worked at a shipyard in Middletown
Very good.
for like, I don't know, 9 years. And then I sold automobiles for another, I don't know, 5 or 6 years.
Check your pockets.
Then I sold houses for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I sold advertising space.
So
for
you said
the
you
rest of it.
stole houses?
Sold.
Sold.
It's that Philadelphia accent.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
they use.
So are you sorry that you stopped selling houses?
No, not at all.
Even though like now the commission would be really, really big.
I really enjoyed it when I did it. It was a lot of fun, and the houses were reasonably priced at the time, and it was not as competitive. It's super, super competitive now. And in real estate, like, very few people make a lot of money. Everybody else kind of makes money. But it was more of the it just wasn't as much fun. Yeah. And I got sick. That's really why I left.
Oh.
I ended up getting cancer. That kind of killed that career, and I didn't go back to it. And then I was fine, and I decided to do something different.
Good. Does everybody get cancer? Because,
Eventually.
Eventually, it
so
gets you.
It's just part of our.
It's part of life,
Maturation.
and then you get through it, and you go, okay, what's next?
That's good. I'm glad you did, and,
Yeah.
and you're here with us today.
Yeah.
So when you were doing this real estate, did you find some like really creepy times,
No,
creepy moments where you
no.
you said, I really don't want to sell this house to these people. I like the people that own the house now so much that I could never let them. These people.
Interesting question.
I say these people. I shouldn't say these people. Can you say these people?
Yes. No, I do remember working with some buyers and saying to them, like, if you break your leg, what are you going to do? How are you going to buy this house because you don't have any money?
Oh, yeah. There was
You
a
know.
point at which people were buying homes.
They didn't have any money.
They didn't have any money.
You don't
Yeah.
need money to buy a house. That's what all the mortgage companies were saying. You don't need any money.
Yeah.
I've always done consultative selling where it's like, first, you're my buddy,
Okay.
and I'm going to try to make the best deal for you. That's how I've always done it. So I would have those conversations. It's
Oh,
like,
good.
what are you going to do if you break your leg? What are you going to do if you get pregnant? Like, what are you going to do if this stuff happens? So,
Right.
so
There
I-
is-
I
there
was
should-
never going to make a lot of money.
I'm of the belief, though, being the least mature person in this room for sure, like by 100, that I would, I would need, if I didn't have a very responsible Eva in my life.
Eva's his wife.
Eva's my wife, and the public know that, but Bridget, is that your name?
Colleen.
Colleen.
You calling me by my last name again?
She, if I didn't have that that person in my life, I'm sure I would, I'd be a mess. I'd be upside down with the mortgage and everything, because I just never could figure stuff out. And I say that, and people should have like a lesson, a series of lessons about budgeting, right?
Absolutely.
They really
before
should
they buy
teach
a
that
house.
in school.
Yeah.
When I knew the whole housing thing was going down, I was coaching at the time at the university, and there was this guy that I kind of peripherally knew, who was a dishwasher at the local establishment that I used to attend. Go with the team for dinner, because we team dinners and stuff. And this dude, he bought a $300,000 house in Narragansett,
Yeah.
and he had like 17 people living there, right? And of course that fell apart because somebody got married, somebody, broke a leg, whatever. And he couldn't pay the mortgage and he defaulted. So, I kind of knew that wasn't working out.
We all saw it coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so obvious, these explosive, and people that had 5 houses.
What are we going to do now that the government decided that they're not going to regulate anything?
So
This
it's
is
very
the-
scary. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is banking. I'm very scared about the banking. People in the state of
Because you
Rhode
always
Island.
wanted to be a banker.
No, people in the state of Rhode Island may not remember when the banks were shut down. 1990, the governor shut
remember.
down 40 institutions, and people couldn't get their money. It was crazy. And the new administration that's coming in is saying, yeah, we don't need we don't need them to pay attention. They can kind of do what they want. So that's a little scary.
Well, those banks and lending institutions lended the current president significant amounts of money that he never paid back.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have that.
So
We have that
fun.
to look forward to.
Yeah.
It is time in our lives, at least my life, where I'd like to have a little security in my life, And I'm sure I'm more secure than the next person, like, not the next person, but many people in this country, because this gig is, let me tell you, it's a good gig. But anyway,
The dough is just rolling.
it's almost
in here at
tax time.
Katunko
I'm
Chronicles.
worried. Right? So as we talk about that, I'm thinking, what was I saying? Could you help me?
About
the-
being confident in your
You want to be.
Yeah. I
in
don't want
the
to have
economy
this.
and not worry about the strife in economically and
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some like rises in some of the investments and everything, but I've also seen some precipitous dips. So there's that. Hey,
There's-
do you go to the basketball games at the university?
no.
Okay.
Sorry,
Well,
we,
won't
we can
talk
talk
about
about it. My girlfriend does. She goes to the women's basketball because it's really inexpensive and she absolutely loves it.
We
So I
love
will
it.
go
Jay
to
goes
one
there,
of the
too.
games. You go to the
James
women's.
goes.
I only go to I've been to the 3 men's games this year. However, we go to almost all the women's games. However, tonight's a match. They're playing at the university tonight, and I'm playing poker.
Instead of going to the game.
Yeah. I have to tell you, every time that you drop that cup on
It
there,
makes noise.
it makes a big noise.
I apologize.
So just beware of that.
Okay.
Podcast 101. We forgot to
Podcast
tell her about that.
And now the rest of the audience knows. So as we go a little further down that path, could you tell us, third hand, how your sister likes basketball?
Was it your sister or
My
your
friend. She loves it.
Is her name Colleen?
No, her name is Karen.
Okay, Karen. I've got Bridget.
And they go to
Colleen,
all
and
the
Karen.
games and they absolutely love it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And I'm going to go when one of them can't go. I'm the
You're the
sub.
backup.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm the
Good.
sub.
So we have a chance.
Yeah, I could
Okay,
get there.
good. Basketball is great to watch in the winter. You know why? It's warm in the arena most of the time. There's bright lights. The basketball is outstanding.
Except
The
for
women's
last
basketball.
night. Oh, the women's basketball.
Women's basketball has been very good, as has the men's. I've enjoyed that as well. But there's a sense of it's just a nicer atmosphere in the women's game. And I say that because last night I was surrounded. I got great seats last night, right in the middle. Couldn't be any more middle. One tier up. And I've got the whole game in front of me, and I've got a Chooch on the right and a Chooch on the left. This Chooch on the left, he must have been, well, his age is not a factor, but he was a very elderly man. And he was chirping at the referee all night and screaming, and he didn't even know the rules.
Is
The dude,
chooch a Rhode Island
What is a
expression?
chooch? I was going
Chooch
to ask
is an
that.
Italian word for,
Putts,
yeah, putts. That's
Okay.
exactly right. Yeah,
Okay.
Chooch.
I guessed.
In our family, we used it for a number of different meanings.
Yeah, when you have the good seats at the games, then you're in amongst the season ticket holders, and they are very loud, very vocal, and if somebody does something wrong, they are all over them.
They hate the people that are actually entertaining them. It's terrible. These guys are out there doing their best. They're trying to play. I don't get it. You don't hear it from me, that's for sure. So we moved. We went to some seats
Smart.
that were much less
Chooch-like.
Chooch-like. Choochy less. All right. So, hey, we went out to New Year's dinner and we never talked about it. But we went to this place. You chose the place. And we did a tasting.
And
night.
I should have known because James had already complained about another place that serves small plates.
If the plates were small, it would be fine. It was the food on the plates that was minuscule.
So small plates that are overloaded are fine, but small plates that also have small things on them are not okay.
Colleen, have you ever been to a small plate place?
When you go home and you're hungry and you go home and eat, yes.
So you don't put a lot of food on the plate when you go home. That's smart because my plates are full, and so is my girth. It's rather full at the moment. I made a really nice meal for lunch because, it's a long day when you have pickleball in the morning. Prepping for this in the morning first. Pickleball, tough. I got to go out and do that for a couple hours. And then, I do workouts while I'm doing pickleball too. And then,
Simultaneously.
no, in between games because you have to wait. Anyway, that's aside. So, it's physically taxing. So I came home and I made a really nice lunch. And you want to know what it is?
Yes.
It's pasta, of course, but I'm Italian. And there was, I made a sauce with garlic and oil, of course. And then, really interesting, artichoke and you wouldn't think this combination, but mushrooms too. Artichoke, mushrooms. I put a little parsley in there, which is really a weird spice for anything Italian. And wouldn't you know, that was delicious. But the kicker, squid ink pasta, which doesn't taste like squid,
No.
but very good tasting.
Does
and
it leak
looks
on the other?
great.
It's black, isn't it?
It darkens the sauce slightly,
Oh, it does, yeah.
Yeah.
but really worm-like. Wonderful. I really loved it.
And the portion was larger than a silver dollar.
Well, it started off as like 2/3 of one bowl, good-sized bowl.
And then you had seconds.
Yeah, so really, what's the point? I should have just filled it up. Anyway, there's
So
that.
during our New Year's Eve tasting menu, the waiter was pretty attentive, and at one point he asked if we needed anything else. And James asked for some tweezers.
How many courses was it?
7.
It was,
Okay. So
yeah,
they
there was
spaced it out.
seven courses. I would rather play golf on a course than do that kind of coursing. It was just awful. I'm sorry. It was delicious. But, the memory of that bite, well, Eva decided that she didn't want to have the duck because, she doesn't eat meat lately. And she's been really good about it for about a year. And she was served 1/2 of one parsnip for dinner.
Oh,
That was the main course. It had a few little remnants of what you normally would throw out when you're making a salad. Because the stuff that just gets chopped, it goes off the edge and you don't want to put it in. That's about how much there was of that. And then the nice dressing. And she said it tasted like the best parsnip of her life. But, yeah, that's not dinner.
One
You
parsnip.
can't live on a parsnip.
Not really.
So anyway, and then it wasn't a small number either, but it was really fun to be with you, and we were with others too that we liked, and the beer tasting after was fun. So we did a beer tasting at your friend's house,
Yeah.
and they were very really knowledgeable about beer, and then of course Ashland and Stuart, that's all. They have a lot of knowledge about beer, a lot of things too. I mean, brilliant folks. But this discussion was at some point, it was just like so much beer talk. So what did I say? It was very funny. Tell me what I was funny saying.
I don't even know where you're going with this. I don't remember what you said.
I did say something that was hilarious. Eva even
You
noticed.
said lots of funny things, so I'm not sure.
Oh, this was about.
Clearly,
I said-
the whole night was too
I
much
changed
for
the topic.
James.
I changed the topic totally. Like went another direction, which is something I'll do if I'm bored with a topic. Because I don't know that much about beer making. I do taste it. So new car. Do you have a new car too?
No.
Colleen?
I do not.
Okay. Everybody got new cars
By the
recently.
way, your new car, so you got Eva got a Volvo,
Yeah.
but you didn't take advantage of the deal that Volvo has, where if you take delivery of your car in Sweden, they pay for your airfare to Sweden, put you up in a hotel
And they teach you
for
to swim.
2 weeks, and you get to use your car and drive it all around and do whatever you want for 2 weeks in Sweden, and then they ship your car back to the States for you.
I'm gonna go for this because I probably need a car at some point.
So wait a minute. You buy a car in Sweden.
Yes.
And then you go to Sweden for 2 weeks. They pay for everything. Mm-hmm. And then they ship it
They
over.
don't pay for your meals and your alcohol, but they pay for your
But they pay for your hotel.
and your airfare, and they ship your car back for you.
So what do they get out of this?
I think it's like a promoting Sweden kind of thing.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like a good deal.
It's like Farfig
2 weeks.
Google
For
on
Fignugel.
steroids.
Sounds awesome.
Well, Farfig Noogle is a word associated with VW, though. That was there.
I think it's similar to that word.
That's a word I didn't think I was going to use today. So that's been fun, just bombing around in that. But, I don't like driving it. Because I'm afraid of driving anything that's actually new.
So that's why you always make Eva drive.
Yeah, Eva's doing a good job with the driving. Like, sometimes she isn't. She's very capable of doing
It's hard
multiple
to drive
things at
these new
once.
cars because there's all these things.
Yes.
Like it's not the simple knobs and
No.
it's like a screen and there's all these extra buttons and the car's telling you whether you're in your lane or not and whether there's
Ashlyn, do
somebody
you
next
have
to
old
you.
woman's disease?
When the car beeps at you and you're going, what the hell is that?
She's a woman that likes a bike, and she bikes a lot.
True.
And my old car was a manual transmission, so it's been a big step, big
Why
change
does-
for me.
Why does the new, the newest president say China? Every time he says China. It's as if
It's just dismissive.
he's got
Who
a
knows?
it's as if he's got a walnut in his mouth and he's chewing it. China. All right, so we've got new cars. What have let's see. Well, let's talk about Monday's immigration diatribe. I would call that immigration, not inauguration.
I refuse to watch it, so
Okay.
I didn't watch it. I've been referred to it as the second insurrection because it should have never happened. It's outrageous.
All right.
but the people have spoken. They're getting what they want. James couldn't take it anymore, so he switched the channel
I don't blame him.
because we're now underwater.
That's my favorite almost. I still love trumpets because Dad loves a trumpet and Grandpa was a trumpet player. Papa. Well, is it bullshit or not? That's always a fun little element of our show. All right, I have one.
Okay.
So these are statements that you make. They're either true or false. So you know the show.
I'm familiar with it, yes.
Okay. It is possible to catch a snowflake in super glue and to preserve it in a frozen state to utilize as a charm or a lucky charm or whatever you want to call it. Is it bullshit or is it not? And we're going to pose this question to none other than Colleen Bridget.
I have to say bullshit. Yeah.
I'm afraid, well,
What do you say,
Well, you-
Ashland?
You've given
You
it
just
away
tipped
now.
it.
yes,
You
I'm
tipped
afraid
your hand.
you're wrong. You are wrong. That is not bullshit. That is true. And I have proof. My nephew is doing that up in the great state of Vermont in Burlington. And he has somebody that's actually very good at it.
Wait, is this
And
for
he's
fun?
selling it as a charm?
He doesn't sell them.
Oh, I want one.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
all right. How does he do it?
I didn't know. I don't know, but I think you will find out because you know the magic Google words.
Super
but
glue.
I'm not
But
a-
how do you capture
yeah.
the snowflake that it doesn't melt right away? So if you have really cold
A cold environment.
glass, really cold glass,
If you're-
right, outside, well, we could do it
But-
now. It's 22
But the
degrees.
super glue, I mean, it has a pretty short
It's a
life.
great. One of our sponsors today will be Super Glue.
So if you have your cold glass and then you put a drop of super glue on it, and you have to have it snowing in such a way that you're only catching individual
and
flakes.
big snowflakes. You want big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're most
So they have
attractive.
to be ideal conditions, and you think you just run around with this
Yeah.
little
With
tray,
cold tray.
I can
trying
see
to
him
catch
doing that.
But super glue doesn't stay pliable very long. It had to be like that.
Like, drop it, catch it.
He's not doing this for a living then.
No, God, no. He has a responsible position with a major insurer. However, what I would say is that he is a very interesting dude. He makes rockets. Then, he's part of a rocket group. I went up there and we did some, what did we do? We went gold capturing. We went out into the stream together. That's just a few of the things. I mean, he did have a very bad accident, hurt his hip. And he's come back from that. The guy's a cool dude. Really enjoy hanging out with him. And he does lots more than just snowflake catching. He grows the biggest pumpkin in all of the entire condo group there. All of
I thought you were going to say all of Vermont.
no, it's really
that would be
just
a big
in his
pumpkin.
condo. Because no one else in the
In
group.
the condo
It's actually
association
it's not
grows
permissible
pumpkins.
to grow. They have flower police there, so your flowers can't be over a certain height. I could never live in that environment. Okay, so does any of you do you have a bullshit or not? Sorry.
Okay, I'll give you one. So, pickleball, is your favorite new sport. Pickleball was invented by a congressman who was tired of listening to his kids whining that they were bored and they had nothing to do. So he dragged them out to his badminton court to play badminton, but because no one's used the court in ages, he couldn't find the badminton rackets, and he couldn't find the birdie. Is that what you call it? So he had them play a shuttlecock. He had
Is that
them
what it's called?
play.
A shuttlecock?
Shuttlecock.
Yeah, that is the right name. He had them play with some ping pong paddles and a wiffle ball.
Colleen,
True. I believe.
I'm going to go with
James?
that. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, that is true.
Which congressperson?
From Washington State,
Actually read about
on
it,
Bainbridge
where it
Island.
came from, so I kind of knew that one.
And then
He
and
made
they
up the rules and everything? Or
well,
did
it
that
took some
develop?
time. So they started just like that, and then the adults, him and his two buddies, they were the ones that just ran with it. And in fact, they pushed the kids right out of the way. And then the next week, I guess he cut out, or not him, but one of his buddies cut out a paddle just out of a piece of plywood, no padding or anything, just a flat piece of plywood. And it's pretty much the same shape of the modern. And this all occurred in,
Washington State, you said.
no, what year?
Oh, I have this down. Can we do a decade or half a decade?
Sure.
1980.
Nope.
Oh, later than that, I would think.
I would think so too, but it was 1965.
Yes.
Get out of town.
Look how long it took for that to, but they actually did. So they
That's
started
a long time ago.
as a group of buddies, they started working on the rules, and there was one guy who was really big and he was spiking, so that's why they said you can't hit anything in
The kitchen.
forward of exactly, and that was all based on the badminton court.
Oh, very
And
good.
then eventually they put it in a box, and the original box, it's all their friends and family in the as modeling the game on the photos on the box.
I love it.
That's cool.
1965.
Wow.
But, I was told that at my high school, which was rather, they were rather, wealthy community. So they had, some alternative sports that we would learn. But not when I was there. So that would be middle school-ish, so 1974. So that was 10 years later, and they hadn't gotten there yet to the Shishi school. So anyway, how about the extraction of silver from rock formations involved the use of lead, and the Roman Empire is thought to have a reduction in the intelligence of the population during the period of heavy silver production in many parts of the world where silver was present and where the Romans ruled. Is this bullshit, or is this not?
I think that's plausible.
I believe that too.
That is true, and it's a recent fact that came out, and
It explains a lot.
Well, it explains a lot about my own lack of intelligence, and I'll say that because when we were children, we had this like sort of crazy dude that lived down the street, and I don't say he wasn't crazy. He was just a kid that had kind of a free. He had more freedom than the rest of us, and his parents weren't really paying attention, so he would order all these strange liquid metals and stuff, and one of them was mercury, and we were all playing with that.
I remember playing with
Yeah,
mercury.
we all played with it.
You divide it up, and it was so much fun to play with.
That was
Yeah.
even in school we played with it.
Who knew
That
it
wasn't-
was so bad? Now, like they're like shut down schools if a piece of mercury comes out.
Yeah, there you go.
Crazy.
So there's that, and then lead. I mean, gee, we expose ourselves to lead all the time. There was lots of lead exposure.
I can remember
Fishing and-
peeling wallpaper from our third floor house, and my tongue was like tingling. And it was
That's
like,
good.
come to find out, it was definitely lead paint. I mean, we didn't know.
Yeah, so I guess we
Explains a lot.
explains a lot. Some mercury, silver,
Yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah.
Well, there you have the section we call "Is it bullshit or is it not?" Okay, so this is the new section that we have we're going to try out. It's a new segment, and it's going to be called, what are we calling this? Tricks of the Trade.
James's Tricks of the Trade.
Tricks of the Trade. So this is like useless information that you may never need. However, I have some tricks of the trade that I'd like to reveal. Do you have any tricks of the trade were you aware that there was going to be a section called Tricks of the Trade?
It was mentioned to me, yes.
Oh, okay, good.
But I was told we weren't supposed to prepare, so I'll have to hear yours first.
Okay, then you can piggyback on mine.
Okay.
Should I go first?
Yes, you should go first.
Okay, so as the audience and Ashlyn know, I spent a significant amount of time pursuing the round ball, which is not the ball that you think of in this country, but the soccer ball, and it was in this country that I did this. And I was professionally coaching for a long time. And when people ask about, that part of my life, fairly successfully, by the way, and when they ask about that part of my life, sometimes they'll ask, what was the key to coaching? And I think the key for me was the success I had. I owe to the players, of course. So part of that selection process is certainly recruiting is critical to all of that. But then once you have the players in position to succeed or not, understanding each person's individual key, what the key is that turns that person on. I know you're thinking, cocaine, methamphetamine.
My mind did not go to cocaine.
All right, but the key, I always thought that a coach needed to be very much like a janitor, in only one respect, and that is janitors oftentimes have significant number of keys on their belt. And is that true? Sometimes?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think things are improving with that. Perhaps they don't need as many keys as they used to. But when I was young, there was a lot of keys. And each one unlocked a different door, right? And all those doors were critical to the endeavor, whatever it might be. Particularly if you're trying to use a facility or whatever. Knowing where the janitor is and knowing where that janitor has the key is critical. So you might be influenced in a different way than Ashland. I don't need to motivate Ashland too much to do the 200-mile bike ride. But Colleen, I might have to approach you in a different manner.
To do the 2-mile bike ride.
Good answer. So that you understand why a coach needs a significant number of keys.
So that's your tip, but how do you get the keys?
Understanding the human being, understanding human behavior, and being able to identify the moment when that can be most effective, whatever it might be. I had a player that if you took this player out of the match, he would be extremely pissed that you took him out of the match. And he would do anything to get back on the field. Now, I have another player that if you look at him wrong, he doesn't score the 55 goals because he'll go home. Everyone needs a different type of stroking, And
So would you make yourself available to the coach for the URI Rams basketball team?
For me to be the coach?
No, not to be the coach, but tell him about the keys, and there's a couple of people on his team that I think he lost the key to them.
Oh, the men's team?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they'll find the keys. This is a very accomplished group of coaches. They had like what was the response after President Biden had his disastrous speech? And it wasn't speech, it was a debate. He said they had a bad night. Well,
Let's hope that they're better than Biden.
yeah, Joe did a great job for the country for a long period of time and did service for the country. That said, he had a bad night, as did the basketball team. Never mind. Ashlyn, do you have a key you want to express?
A key.
Tricks of the trade.
Tricks of the trade. I don't know if I have
Is there
any
any trick to being whatever it is you do over here? The
tricks of the
IT tricks?
IT trade.
Understanding how to spell it.
Patience. The trick to the IT thing is patience.
How do you spell IT? Tricks of the trade is patience, yes. Because you're dealing with people, probably have more understanding of electronics than I, but every day. That's true. Okay, so patience. And do you have a trick of the trade? Colleen Bridget.
So I've been in sales for a very long time, and I can tell you there's no real tricks to the trade, but to be successful, you need to listen, to hear what people say.
Well,
And
could you
there's-
repeat that? I didn't hear what
You need to listen, hear what people say, but really hear them. But one of the sayings that I remember taking with me is to agree and disarm. So when someone says to you something negative about whatever, no, you hear them, agree with them, and then try to look at a different way to look at it so they can approach it.
I don't really want to pay $41,000 for a car.
Correct.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. So maybe we're not looking at the right car. Agree and disarm. But they do want that car, but you have to let them tell you that. Well, then maybe we should look at a different model. I have some other models over there we
But
can
I
look
like
at.
I like the performance. I think that and it's the right size for us.
So I'm going to be selling cars again. Don't make me do this.
All right, that's the key.
Yeah, I think
so
it's a
the
key.
key is because I don't remember.
Agree and disarm.
Agree and disarm. Thank you.
So my son, who's an engineer, he works in a great place in California in a really very high end job. He says he takes this to every meeting with engineers because every engineer thinks they know everything. So when he sits down with all those engineers, he'll say, you're right. That's right. That's a good way to look at it. But we could probably look at it this other way. So that's the agree and disarm. Because if you say no, you're wrong, people get to back up, and then the conversation's usually over.
You know what
This is some very good advice.
True, it is. And you know what the derivation of the word disarm? It goes back to that movie with Monty Python's group there.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Just like,
Well, they
you had dirt. You had a
You mean
house.
literally disarm.
disarm.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Just chop my arm off. Oh, I've had worse. What are you going to do? Bleed on me? So, disarming. Yes, that's the other disarm. If so I could really take that group of engineers and turn them on their head because they don't know anything about clamming, for sure. Oh, most of them, I'm just guessing. Unless they're from Rhode Island.
Probably 98% of them have no idea. They don't even know what a quahog is.
Okay.
He works in California. They never heard of it.
So and then when I throw this at them, one of the keys to understanding how to become I was a professional clam fisherman. So one of the keys was to understand how the clams actually disperse when they're in the larval state, and they're floating for a long time. Then they're picking up,
Jay's fingers are fluttering through the air.
and they're fluttering, and then they're floating. Wait a minute, let's do that. They're floating. And then they pick up calcium from the water miraculously through some kind of transpiration. I'm going to use that word. I don't know what it means. And then they start to sink anywhere they are. But then the tide comes, and they're still light, and they're not going into the mud. And the tide, and they're fluttering, and they're moving towards something. And then they get caught in a bank or in some grass or whatever it is, and they settle. And they begin their first dig into the soil, and that's where they stay.
So are they normally like a group?
Oh,
When
it's a big group because the one quahog puts out like 1 billion or something eggs, or no, not 1 billion, 500,000 eggs or something like that.
But so one area there'll be nothing, and then the next area there'll be tons.
It can be, yes.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's just not like all evenly dispersed out there.
So all the material for their shells is calcium pulled from the water?
I assume. This must be calcium plus something. It's a carbonate or something. I don't know. Okay, I'm not. You asked the engineer on that one. All right, so, like, that's the key. And then I thought of another key, like, for writing, writing. And I've forgotten what it is.
I think
Do you know what
I
it is?
just do it. If you want to be a writer, you need to write.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
one of the keys is to write everything and then be a good editor.
Mm.
That's one way to do it. Or, I think,
See, you should have written all of this down. So
no,
that
no,
you
I
would
know what it is.
remember what you were
I'm getting
gonna
it. I'm getting it. I'm like building characters. I don't do this anymore, but I did when I started, and that was a long, long time ago. But writing about like 20 things about a character that I might, observe, and it's always the first 10 are, she has red hair. She always wears earmuffs that look like they belong in a podcast studio.
I knew where he was
She's-
going with that.
Are you
She
describing
has a great
Colleen?
smile, and then so that's all the obvious stuff. And then she walked with a limp when she entered the room. She lifts her right elbow when she speaks about something that is upsetting. Those are the pearls in writing, finding those little moments. And that's a very good opportunity to talk about the next topic, which is commercials, but we'll do trumpets. Colleen Bridget,
Yes.
you were involved in advertising of
Yes.
some sort, or
Yes.
advertising sales?
Yes.
And did
Guilty.
You, were you You forced me to buy a lot of shit I didn't want. When you did that, now, did you write the copy?
Sometimes.
Oh, cool. Okay, so that's what I wanted to ask you about. Have you listened to any of the commercials that, I have a lot of involvement in the building of the copy for our advertisees.
Oh,
So our so our advertisers, they entrust me. They give me a list of things that they want to talk about in the thing, and then it's my attempt also to inject some fun and humor into it too. So in the process, there might be a sale of two that comes from this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any keys to this process?
It's simple, and you already know this. It's like, just remember who your audience is, who you're talking to, what are you trying to direct them to or push them towards? I don't want to say push them towards, but I think that's really important, because some people just want it to be cute, they want it to be funny, but it also has to be appropriate to who you're directing it to.
Okay, that's the real solid answer. I'm going to read a few of these, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, good.
That was a trick of the trade right there.
Yes, that's a good trick.
I don't know.
So this week, we've agreed to do a series of free commercials for upcoming businesses in the community as free advertisement opportunities to help promote our most fledgling population of businesses. So this is free today. And a couple of PSAs as well. Okay, public service announcements. And you'll recognize this one right away, because we had two guests ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had a fellow by the name of what was his name?
I don't remember.
And he was interested in he was doing sitting. He did some sitting for me.
Wasn't his name Cal?
It was Cal, right? It was Cal. Jeez. Yeah, Cal. That's right. So Cal's Cat and Dog Service is a full in-house dog service that provides you with a full-time in-house dog and cat care person while you vacation, or even while you're at home. If you don't like walking your dog in sub-zero degree weather, call Cal, because with Cal, your pet will never be happier. Cal provides on-premises nail trimming, brushing, washing, and toothbrushing if Fido permits. Add Cal to your family, and you'll never regret hiring Cal's Cat and Dog Service, accepting new contract, and it's singular, in April 2025. So, what I'm presuming is Cal
He's quite busy.
comes into your home and stays there. Free lodging, stays with your cat and the dog.
Haven't you used Cal before?
Yeah, but I don't like to use the word use.
Hire.
We invited him to our home for a short stint, but not to stay. But these people got set up where, they got a full-time dog person. I know some people have people that have their kids
Well,
taken
they
care
have
of
dog
perpetual.
walkers or something.
Interesting new idea. Cal's. This is another product place. The Days of Wine and Roses is a full-service flower shop and wine store. We also sell cheese and high-end cakes. Come by and meet the friendly owner staff. Sample some cheese and sip some wine while surrounded by the ambiance of the smell of Easter lilies. Come by and enjoy some time with the locals. Islanders and non-islanders are welcome. Very nice. Doesn't say
hungry.
where this place is or anything like that, but
I could go for some cheese right now.
I can't help you out.
I know. I'm just thinking about
Cheeseless.
it.
Wine and cheese is always a good marriage.
Yeah. And Easter lilies. I always love the smell of
I
those.
don't know about the flower thing, but
This is unfortunate business that just popped up. It's called Pat's Full Deportment Law Services. If you're being considered for deportation, get out in front of that shit, says Pat Domenico. The minute you walk in Pat's Full Deportment Law Services, you'll be treated with the utmost respect and in the most confidential manner possible. Pat will meet with you at your home, at a coffee shop, or in the office, located on Katunkwit, Maine, above the Erectile Dysfunction Counseling Center of Katunkwit.
Does that have anything to do with the aging population of Katunkwit?
Beyond me. Offshore wind boat services. Offshore wind, there's another one that just popped up after 20th. Offshore Wind Boat Service, Offshore Wind BS, is committed to provide security services to those working on offshore wind projects. OWBS has licensed, armed, and well-trained personnel at the ready in any circumstance to protect those working on alternative energy systems in the ocean. We also provide onshore security at solar power field installations and on-land wind farms. At OWBS, we take the BS out of building an energy future that is committed to stopping continued atmospheric destruction leading to climate change. That's Offshore Wind Boat Service.
I actually did think it would be a good business for somebody to, run out to all those ships that are parked around.
And feed them.
And, just bring,
They used to have that in Newport. They used to have shuttles that would bring food to the boats. They probably still do.
Oh, and by the way, not to totally segue, but related to food delivery, at the basketball game last night, my daughter and her friend used the free ticket that I had. And, at the last 4-minute break, they start shooting those stupid foam balls into the audience and throwing T-shirts at everybody, which to me is a complete waste.
They should just take those balls and just shoot them right into the landfill.
Yeah, exactly. So my daughter had a brilliant idea. They should use that propane shooting canister thing and shoot burritos out into the audience.
Or how about quahogs?
Well, that would be harder for people
That would
to.
hurt.
That would hurt too. But you would be happy to have a burrito wrapped up, of course, land in your lap, and you could eat it, and it wouldn't be wasted.
I always prefer a burrito that's had a little bit of flight time. That's the truth.
It's a vision there. You
That's
just
something,
see it shooting burritos.
Yeah. Burritos
And it
have
would be sponsored by a local, Gansett Wraps. Isn't Gansett Wraps down at URI?
burritos for me have flight time on both sides, so it's a magic trick with that stuff. I always feel like it's at first it's such a great idea. Let's have a burrito. And then, they put cilantro in a lot of them, so
Yeah, I don't
that's
like
a big negative.
So
for me.
you guys have something
Soap.
in common.
It's soap. Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, can't do it.
Yeah, it's soap, like really the worst smelling, ugly soap that's in the toilet. Okay, so that said, with the burritos, what was I going to say? Oh, so I'm eating the burrito, and even if by chance they weren't able to, they didn't put any cilantro in it. At some point, at first I'm thinking it's pretty good, and then at some point, I just come to this point where I feel like I'm eating just a pile of garbage. I mean, like I really get this vision of this.
Why? Because it's
Just
all
as if it were
mushed
in the-
together and you can't see it
If it
because
was
it's wrapped?
in the bin, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Is it because it's all mushed together and you can't see it because it's wrapped up?
I don't know what it is. It's just so. At some point, that's what happens to me. I did have some wonderful Mexican food while I was in Arizona.
Out west, they do it much better
Yeah.
than here. It's the real deal. It's good.
It
Out
wasn't
in
all-
California, it's good.
It wasn't all gloppy.
Yes, they're a
No.
bit closer to Mexico than we are.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the woman that was making the, what are those things they put them on? The big,
The tortillas?
yeah, she was making them in the street. Just,
Oh, wow.
it was special. It was San Diego area or something. Oh, so this is a public service announcement. It starts with a question. Can the common or not so common oyster clean the oceans? At Oyster Up, we're committed to seeding Narragansett Bay with disease-resistant oysters, spat, to clean up Rhode Island's most natural resource. Biologists have developed an oyster that eats microplastics that are in the water column. The iconoclad oyster is distinct in color and size, as it is much larger than the normal oysters and is recognizably different. With proper public awareness, the public will likely not eat the IO oysters, and the oysters will clean up the ocean. To date, the IO oyster, however, is not approved to eat. But in early testing, the IO oyster has not caused any cancer in laboratory-tested animals. Support IO research and development by supporting Oyster Up.
Interesting. I have heard of different projects where they're trying to get, various things to eat plastic.
The microplastic problem
Yeah.
is huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all in us, or it's in all of us.
Well, you think of it as a problem, but maybe something out there really loves to eat it.
Well, they've got to eat it before it gets into us.
And then we don't want to eat that, though. I'm not in favor of eating the oysters, even if that hasn't killed any animals.
Well, it depends if they're breaking it down into, it depends on how it all works.
Well, oil?
Yeah, but they're returning it to its original form.
Because I like to have a little oil with every meal.
Well, petroleum.
Gender for All is a nonprofit organization devoted to all genders and gender identification. At GFA, we support all as they move on their journey through life. Join us in our journey of support on Saturday, January 25th at Katunkwit Down Beach to plunge for gender freedom. Donations are expected, and we suggest a donation of $15. All proceeds for the 501c8 will go to fighting legislation at the local level as GFA works to defend those affected by the new federal mandates imposed by the sitting president in his recent executive order. I had three gasps from you, and normally I'm concerned about gasps in the podcast studio. However, you had all the right gasps at the right moments.
Thank you.
Because I'm just aghast at all of what's happened.
I'm aghast, too.
So now we're going to do some trumpets. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. So I was just getting myself reorganized there, because I did have a real moment there. And I think everybody in this audience there of three in this room felt similarly. We talked about the things that are passing with the new administration. So this short story is entitled The Duke of Slides, and I really think you need to pay attention, just in case you weren't, as you listen to this, because it's not very well written. Because it's important to me, this piece, and I think some of us will understand why, and it takes us back to COVID, so no more gasping. Anyway, the Duke of Slides is called the Duke of Slides. He knows it to be cliche, but he's thinking it anyway. Where's time gone? Duke Landon asked himself, his hands clutching the top of his head, where he's nearly sure he feels a thin patch. It was 5 years ago during COVID, during a celebration of his birth. His pod of 4, wife Linda, daughter Catricia, and son Wells, had engaged his closest friends, collaborators, and arts associates to gather on Zoot to acknowledge Duke's birth plus 60 years. Duke had prepared in his lab for the prior 2 weeks. It was only a few months earlier that his family and 400 others gathered at the Katunkwit Arts Center to witness his live show. With Duke aboard and seated in his seemingly living, home-built mechanical butterfly contraption, his mastery of the sound and of movement, accompanied by his hilariously delivered commentary at the show, brought an even broader audience to his life's work. On this day, in April 2020, Duke stares at the screen of seemingly hundreds of images, confused by the conflagration of faces. He attempts to emote, forcing a smile in the most uncomfortable manner. His hands remain at first at his side, yet he continues to be self-conscious of them, stroking oddly at the sides of his pockets, placing them in and then out the front of his pants repeatedly. On camera, he looks as if he's fumbling for change at the bottom of the pockets. Zoot is Duke's constant reminder of COVID's well-known strain on communication, creating loss of social cues and tonal differentiation. Nearly all is lost with the virtual experience. COVID deterrence items abound throughout the house. Duke loses focus on the screen as his mind drifts to a full box of vinyl gloves. Vinyl because one of his children has an allergy to latex. In front of the in front of the tiny laptop computer camera, he tries to see his favorite friends and attempts to communicate oddly, almost awkwardly, with them, whilst the others watch and try to listen. Yet all of them seem to be competing to be the next to wish Duke well. Duke finally speaks slowly. I'm so glad you're all not here. He pauses for a long time, and his Aunt Bambina, a name given to her by Duke's great-grandmother, fails to get the joke, and yells above the chatter coming from now more than 100 tiny faces. But we're all here, Dukey. Duke uses the palm of his right hand to clear his eye, distracting the viewers from his laughter. He turns completely to compose himself, and then returns to his audience. He loves an audience. He pauses again, lifts his shirt at the collar, and for the first time since the virtual celebration began, there is near quiet among the online virtual non-presents, as Duke thinks of them. Duke waits long enough for an uncomfortable chatter, the clearing of the throats and the eyebrows lifting among some of the visitors to cease. Unable to focus on all the gathered images, Duke identifies one friend, Elton Stanwyck, and he focuses solely on him. Elton, a painter of some acclaim, but a far better poet, is located centrally in a sea of small faces. Duke speaks in a kind of tonal, almost nasally. And he's a funny, sort of serious way. I'm so glad you're not all here to infect one another. Your virtual presence assures us of another kind of viral infection after we all exit this video conference. I'm sure that one of you have contracted a computer-borne bug that will find its way past the firewall that Zoot provides. His audience remains transfixed, expecting a great deal from Duke every time while in his presence. Duke removes 2 rectangular pieces of thick plexiglass from a colorful woven bag that's sitting atop the table. The clear plastic pieces are about the length of the forearm and as wide as his hand. Duke holds up the rectangular pieces and says, "I'm sure you're wondering if my grandparents would attend tonight's celebration. And I'll tell you that they couldn't be here because they're all dead. So I brought slides of the 2 of them for your review." Duke removes the rainbow-colored tie-dye sheet covering a large object behind him. It's an oversized sculpted replica of a microscope that he built from stuff he had laying around. The base is an old welded table project that he hadn't finished, and an old-timey stripped typewriter sits atop the base with a large curved white vinyl waste pipe fitted with a lens on the end. The contraption stands on its own in the middle of the room as Duke holds the sheet while pointing proudly. Duke tosses the colorful sheet on the nearby couch, sits atop a paint-strewn artist's stool, and peers through a set of binoculars strapped to the microscope. He places one of the oversized red and brown and smudged slides atop the stripped, old-timey typewriter. He shakes his head and clears his eyes again, this time with both hands, as his eyes have become goopy and blackened by the makeshift microscope's oversized binoculars. He smudges the black rubber all over his face. Duke describes what he sees in detail. Gran, you look just like I remember you. Not before you died, pissing and shitting in diapers in the bed, but when you used to bring me popsicles when my sister and I had the measles. You're wearing that pleated house dress that you'd wear all day when you visit us. Gran, you really should have had more blood testing before you died. I can see that you're iron deficient. But it doesn't matter now, does it? What's that saying? You're saying, Grant? What's that you're saying? Your speech is garbled. Must be about 35 years of casket living, or is it decaying? Anyway, what have you been doing? You missed the whole help your grandson and granddaughter daughter-in-law bringing up kids. What a trip that's been. They think so differently than adults, you know. They would have benefited from proper grandparents. Katricia and I have been so busy establishing ourselves as artists in town. We probably neglected them, kind of. But they know how to make mac and cheese, and they never drank any turpentine. However, they could have used a solid grandparenting figure in their lives. Aunt Bombino blurts out, "Who's he talking to? Dookie, who are you talking to?" "Quiet, Mom. Duke is performing," her daughter Angelina says quietly from behind her. Laughter emerges from the Zoot audience. Duke looks at the computer screen atop the table. It seems to move in patterns, much like music. Duke reminds himself to review the Zoot recording and to put down a track from the images. Translation of images to make music is much of what his cross-art creations are intended to achieve. Duke looks at the screen of now 150 faces coming across in waves of 25 expressionless yet curious, almost quizzical faces, and drops his head quickly to return to the makeshift microscope. "What do you think of all this, Gran?" Duke asks from behind the scope and then pausing before moving to another direction. I'm sure it's getting crowded lately. Any inside information about the future? Have you spoken to God?" Duke reaches above his head with both arms and counts down with both hands and all his fingers, reaching with 2 closed fists the side of the giant white curved microscope tube as he's stroking the giant tube. "Late-breaking news. Trump will be defeated in 2020 election, and will return to the office in 2024. That's from God, according to Gran. The audience gasps. Elton Stanwyck calls out loudly, "But he's been impeached once. How?" Duke switches slides. "Grandpa, Pa, I can't believe it's you." "They're your slides, Duke. You should have tested this thing before you zooted with the hundreds of people. I can't believe that I just said zoot. Zooted. Zoot. I don't even know what it is. Your grandmother tried to explain, and we've been to 2 seminars up here, almost every week. But I'll be damned, I can't figure it out. Your grandmother does better than I do. She does the Wordle every day." "Pa, you do the Wordle in heaven? You're in heaven? You're in heaven, aren't you? Heaven, right?" Duke asked. "We're in a holding thing, kind of stuck in line. No one's getting in these days like they used to. The border up here is a mess since they started splitting up families. I know you think it's a gate and St. Peter and all, but it's more like a border. I mean, it's okay, 3 squares a day, place to lay down, but we've been here for 35 years. My God, it's getting old, just waiting." "Who's in line, Pa?" "You'd be amazed, Duke. I ran into that singer you loved, had a drug problem, overdose. Janis Joplin sings all the time up here, but even she's in line. They moved Martin Luther King Jr. through. Barely saw him. Some of us take a little more time." "So are you listening to Joplin all the time?" "Elvis, too. Not just musical stars. There's lots of famous actors, too. Sinatra's here, and no, he's the singer, but he acted, too. Damn good actor. He's going to be in a line for a long time, though." Duke changes slides. "Gran, who have you seen in line?" Duke asks. "Put your grandfather on, too." Duke places the other slide back in place and peers into the binoculars. "Well, we've been cooking with Julia Child, you know. The other day I'm in a cooking class, your grandfather too, and who's doing the filming? None other than Herman Goebbels." Pa interrupts. "And he's going to be in line for a long time. People say he'll be working in line for the eternity. They don't tell us the rules. It's not clear who's in charge, but it's pleasant enough. Elvis still has a great voice, you know. Lost all the weight." "He looks great, and what eyes he has," Gran injects. "Have you seen Adolf Hitler?" A Zoot guest asks aloud. Duke asks the two slides atop the microscope in a loud voice. He asked the slides. "They want to know if you've seen Hitler." "No, haven't seen him," Gran says. "I think he went down. He tried to disguise, but people say that about his second day, they took him away and sent him down. That was before us, of course. We're not that old," Pa announces. "Tell me about down. What's down mean?" Duke asks. No one that's up really knows or wants to know what's down," Pa replies. "So they went to hell," Duke proposes. "Marjorie, did he just say it?" Pa says. "Don't say that word, Duke. We don't say that word here," It's bad enough we're in line perpetually. We can't think of that now, can we? Duke, please spare us that word. Gran begs. Is the line moving? Duke asks. Good question. Good question. Duke's audience yells into the Zoot screen. It's always moving. I've got people holding our places in line right now. It was tough on the old bladder for the first few days, but your health improves dramatically when you're in line. There's movies too, Netflix, Hulu, not bad. You never get tired here, Pa reveals. About 5 months ago, must have been in August, there was a big hullabaloo in line. That guy, Trump, used to be a realtor in New York City, was rumored to have become president of the United States. The thought of that guy ever coming here to stand in line with us is unthinkable. I'll never like the guy. You're fired, you're fired, you're fired, Gran says. He's the president now, Duke reports. It's true. It's true. And I thought Americans were smart, Gran says. Ask them what we should do before we die, Eddie Stockport asks. Yeah, ask them if we can join them, Maria Sedgwick calls out. How can we stay in touch with them? Sedgwick adds. Duke lifts himself from the stool, lifts the stool and smashes the microscope with the wooden seat, breaking the contraption into several pieces. Duke rushes to the small laptop screen to see the friends' contorted faces, and he grins from ear to ear like a Cheshire cat. His daughter lifts a flourless chocolate cake with 60 candles on it in front of the camera. Duke sings happy birthday to himself as he quickly closes the lid to the laptop.
I like how you captured all of the moments of elderly relatives.
I loved all the different voices. I don't even know how you do that. I felt like there were all different people here. That was awesome.
Oh,
Loved
you.
it. No, that was
Did
great.
Was it you were able to keep them straight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
good.
voices were all different.
Oh, good. That was fun. That was a fun piece.
Was that based on people? I mean, your voices.
This
people
is a
that you know.
fictional
No, I know
account.
that. I know that, but the voices, were they from?
Were you imagining older relatives from your family?
I've never read this aloud before,
Oh, wow.
so it's just interpretive.
Okay.
Relatives, no. I did have, you know what I had in mind as I was reading Duke? I had a person in mind, and he's a comedian. He's a great guy. I really love his Sedaris. David Sedaris.
David
Oh,
Sedaris.
yeah, he is funny.
So I did have that in mind as I was reading Duke, because it's a little Sedaris-like, right? It's kind of preposterous, and
But it was
I
sort
mean, I
of
just
like
gave myself the best compliment a person could ever get, and I didn't get it from you. But what did you think it sounded like? It did sound like anybody from town.
no, yeah, Colleen's right. You made them sound clearly like three different people.
Yeah, and we are surrounded by wonderful artists, so they all find their way into a lot of their work here in Kentucket. Kentucket is a arts community, so
I kind of also liked how, I mean, you were performing it, but it was about really a performance piece. And I think it was sort of funny that should have been obvious to his audience, but they all got sucked into what he was doing to the point where they were interacting with it as if he was really talking to his dead parents.
Yeah. Did you get the slide thing? Because like this
Yeah.
big vinyl pieces, slides. Yes. Oh, good. So I'm glad you enjoyed that.
James, weren't you going to sing us a song before you left today?
Oh, that's right.
I thought I might do that.
All right.
I will if unless you want to sing.
No,
Are you a singer?
I am not a singer.
Well, this is there's no music.
I'm a listener. Remember?
There's
A
no
listener.
music here, so I'm just reading lyrics and singing them as I go. But I do have kind of a melody in mind as we go forward here. Okay?
Ready?
And after I'm finished with each page, I'm going to throw them like Liberace.
To celebrate.
It's entitled The Wrong Side of the Coffee by James Allen. I got up on the wrong side of the coffee. I've been dancing on bowling balls all day. When you called your sister in Abilene and talked for an hour, I knew sorry wasn't gonna be enough to say. I built a house of flowers on the kitchen table, and I changed my loop to play your favorite jazz. We watched a movie with Betty Grable, and I drink champagne from a fluted glass. I got up on the wrong side of the coffee, paying for just 2 hours sleep. Nothing good happens when the bars close, and I got home at 3:30. Said she sat home working on her studies, while I was playing with fire like a child, a night in boozy bars with my buddies, still thinking I'm young and wild. I got up on the wrong side of the coffee. On day 2 I cleaned everything in sight, twisted a wrench and fixed the leaky sink, and tuned her car to help it make it right. I got up on the wrong side of the coffee, paying for just 2 hours sleep. Nothing good happens when the bars close, and I got home at 3:30. Her heart set on going to Abilene. Said she can't stand this wretched scene, but I know why she's finally leaving, 'cause she could never trust a man like me. I'm on the wrong side of the coffee. Now I take my Joe with a shot of Jim Beam. Bloody Mary holds my hand till noon, and I've been thinking of driving to Abilene. Been a month, but I'm sure it's too soon. I'd have to straighten up and set things right, square my debts and pay for my room. Maybe I'll stay for one more Nashville night. I'm on the wrong side of the coffee. Rum and coke set me free, telling sad stories of regret. Country music speaks to me. I'm on the wrong side of the coffee, one step further from Abilene. The wrong side of the coffee, fading from this withered scene. That's The Wrong Side of the Coffee, performed here in Katunkwit. You heard it first on Katunkwit Chronicles.
Full sound effects.
Bridget, would you please clean up? This place looks like a mess.
Sure.
It's Colleen.
It's calling Bridget, but
geez,
that's
I did it
okay.
again.
It's all right.
All right, see you later.
Call me.